7 seconds. That is how long it took Todd Duffee to make history. One clean punch. A follow-up that echoed through the canvas. Tim Haig's head bounced off the mat like a basketball. The crowd gasped. Joe Rogan's voice cracked. Dana White said this guy was the future. 6'3", 260 pounds, sculpted like a comic book villain. And fast. Terrifyingly fast. He won by erasing people. But just 3 fights later, Todd Duffee was out of the UFC. Knocked unconscious, cut from the roster, blacklisted. The same man who blew up the heavyweight division like a grenade was gone. Forgotten. He wasn't injured, he wasn't old, he just blew it. This is the story of Todd Duffee, the perfect destroyer. A man genetically built for violence, but instead of destroying his opponents, he destroyed himself. Because the scariest thing that Todd ever faced wasn't Alistair Overeem, it wasn't Frank Mir, it wasn't even his injuries. It was Todd Duffee. So to understand how a perfect destroyer became perfectly self-destructive, we need to go back to when Todd was truly unstoppable. Todd was one of those people who was just built like a berserker. Born in Evansville, Indiana, raised in small-town Illinois, Todd was the third son of a coal miner and a nurse. Fighting was nowhere in his family, but he was just always bigger, faster, and stronger than every other kid. Football, basketball, baseball, track. He even tried bull riding, just to see if he could. But it wasn't until college football and the injury that derailed it that Duffee's story started to shift. His body, which made him a star, started to become a liability. He moved to Atlanta, tried boxing. Then he saw a UFC fight on TV, and that was it. This wasn't some drawn-out career decision, it was instinct. He dropped out of college, packed up, and started fighting full-time. And coaches couldn't believe what they saw. Here was a 6'3", 260-pound heavyweight who moved like a welterweight. Explosiveness, speed, athleticism. He had no business being that fast at that size. In training, he looked like a movie character. Trainers said he was the most gifted guy they had ever seen.
Fastest, strongest, biggest heavyweights I've ever rolled with. Anybody who's ever trained with Todd knew he was the real deal. It just came to light, within the past year. People saw his potential. You didn't get to see much of him.
And it wasn't just about his physique either. He was aggressive, hungry, and when he hit people, they didn't get back up. He went 5-0 with 4 first-round knockouts and 1 second-round knockout. One was a UFC and Pride vet. Another went down in 15 seconds. Promoters were already comparing him to Brock Lesnar, just younger, leaner, and somehow more violent. And the UFC was about to unleash this monster.
I've been hearing some great things about this young man. Kid is powerful, explosive, and huge.
UFC 102, Portland, Oregon. Todd Duffee versus Tim Haig. The moment the bell rang, Duffee stepped forward. Stiff jab, boom. Haig's brain shut off. It wasn't a punch that you train for. It was a punch you survive. 7 seconds. Fastest knockout in UFC heavyweight history.
I made my UFC debut against Tim Haig. I came in with my jab, dropped him immediately, and then I just cleaned him up with some ground and pound. It was a quick.
Joe Rogan was stunned. Dana White was all in. This was a warning. The heavyweight division had a new killer. And Duffee made it worse. He turned to the camera, flexed, screamed. That was an appetizer. I want to eat now, Dana. Let me eat. Now that line made headlines. The knockout made history. And just like that, Todd Duffee became a viral sensation. His next opponent, Mike Russo, a veteran. Tough chin, big gas tank. But Duffee didn't care. For 2 rounds, he beat Russo pillar to post. Clean jabs, explosive combos, perfect form. It was like watching a lion mess with its prey. Then in the 3rd round, out of nowhere, Duffee got caught. Right hand, hammer fist, lights out. He had dominated for 12 minutes, then got flatlined in 5 seconds. But no one blamed him. They said it was a fluke. He was young, still the future, just a lesson learned. Dana still believed in him. The fans still backed him. Because Todd Duffee wasn't just strong, he was terrifying. He had knockout of the night potential every single time he fought. But that confidence, that swagger, that hunger to eat, it started to twist. Because perfection has a way of going to your head. After the Russo loss, something shifted. Not in his body, that was still terrifying, but in his mindset. He had stopped being the destroyer. He started becoming a problem. He skipped training, argued with coaches, didn't follow game plans. He went from hungry to hard-headed, from future champ to bad attitude. And then came the injuries. Torn MCL, back problems, more cancellations. But the real breaking point? It wasn't a punch. It was a question. He asked the UFC for help covering his knee surgery. That is when they cut him. No call, no warning, no press release, just gone. 1 week, you're a headline. The next, you're a ghost. This wasn't a fighter losing a job. This was a future champion thrown out the back door. Why? Well, it depends on who you ask. Some say that Dana hated his ego. Some say that the UFC didn't want to set a precedent. Others say it was simple. Todd talked too much, too soon. He had criticized fighter pay. He told the media he needed a second job just to keep training. He pulled back the curtain and paid the price.
They were unhappy with me in general. I think the injury, I fell through their cage like a year prior to that fight and blew out my knee, and then kind of got pushed back into a fight way too soon because the surgery didn't go well. So there was some bitterness and things like that.
Dana later admitted it. They didn't like his tone.
Not a guy like Todd Duffee. I know a lot of people feel he's so young and he could be a guy if you let him go that could do big things.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like Duffy's attitude. I don't like his attitude. I don't like some of the things that he said or done. He made it seem to me like he doesn't want to be in the UFC. Like being here didn't matter to him and he didn't like it. You don't want to be in the UFC, brother. Okay.
It wasn't about talent anymore. It was about trust. And Todd had burned his bridges before he'd even crossed them. Now this should have been the comeback moment, the underdog story, the turning point. Instead, it was the end. He never got a second shot. Not then. And the guy who once screamed, "Let me eat," was now broke, bitter, and starving. And that is when the real destruction began. Out of the UFC, injured and stuck, Todd was desperate for a chance to prove himself. So when Dream offered him a fight, he jumped at it. The problem was, it wasn't just any fight. It was Alistair Overeem, K1 Grand Prix champion, Pride vet, roided up Dutch juggernaut. Todd had 6 days to prepare. 6! Now most fighters wouldn't take that fight with 6 weeks' notice. But Todd said yes. He wanted to prove that he wasn't afraid. He sprinted at Overeem like a man possessed, threw wild punches, no defense, no setup, and then got a knee to the face for his troubles. Boom! Fight over. 19 seconds. It was the worst knockout of his career.
Kept your nerves very well, and that's what I did not do. I could feel how calm you were. No, but normally I'm more calm. Like even when I am aggressive, honestly, like when I fought at Swear, I was really aggressive. I was still calm here. When I fought you, I wasn't calm. Not to take it, you're fucking an incredible fighter. You're one of the best in the world. I was honored to fight you, and I've learned a lot tonight. Definitely. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, take care, man.
And still, he didn't stop. He had told reporters if he had a full camp, he would have crushed Overeem. He even helped Overeem train for Brock Lesnar later on. This wasn't humility, this was denial. Instead of regrouping, he just kept running headfirst into walls. One bad decision led to another. He bounced around promotions, Dream, Super Fight League, Jungle Fight, Brazil, India, wherever. At SFL, he scored a highlight knockout win over Neil Grove in 34 seconds. And for a second, it looked like he was back. But then came the same issues. Injuries, attitude, pullouts. He was scheduled to fight Jeff Monson, didn't happen. He lined up another fight. It fell through. He couldn't hold it together long enough for anything to stick, and promoters noticed. Every time momentum started to build, he would blow it. He thought he could fix everything by just hitting harder, but you cannot punch your way through bad decisions. In 2012, the UFC gave him another shot. He returned against Phil DeFries at UFC 155. Still recovering from a respiratory infection, still not 100%. But when the cage door shut, the old Duffee was back. First round, violence. TKO, 2 minutes, bonus money. The fans exploded. Joe Rogan lost his mind. Dana even gave him knockout of the night. It felt like a redemption arc. He had matured. He was back. He was ready. Until he wasn't. That same training camp, he had been hurt. Right after the fight, the injuries piled up again. Then came the diagnosis: Parsonage-Turner syndrome, a rare nerve condition. Pain, weakness, numbness, delayed recovery.
After I knocked out Phil DeFries, I ended up getting diagnosed with a syndrome known as Parsonage-Turner syndrome. You lose function of your arm. It's accompanied with severe pain, loss of coordination, loss of strength. It ended up being about 2 or 3 weeks of just kind of a whirlwind of going to every possible doctor I could go to. There was no acute actual injury that caused the situation. They couldn't figure out why. And eventually I had a doctor who was just like, man, and he goes, I really think this is Parsonage-Turner. No one else wants to tell you that, because they know that if they tell you that they're telling you that your career is over.
Doctors told him, you won't fight again for 2 years. Now, most fighters would have retired, but Todd didn't. He fought back, rehabbed, rebuilt. In 2014, he returned. UFC 181. KO'd his opponent, Anthony Hamilton, in 33 seconds. Another first-round KO. The Duffee bomb was back. Next fight, Frank Mir. A legend, former champion, a crafty vet. Todd landed early, wobbled Mir, but then he got greedy. Chased the knockout, got clipped, and fell. Hard. KO loss. 1 minute, done. Same story, different night. Then came the years of silence. Injuries, shoulder surgeries, ACL tear, a MRSA infection, 2 more surgeries, setbacks on top of setbacks. But he never quit. He moved to Vegas, trained at the UFC Performance Institute, did everything right. And in 2019, after 4 years, he returned to face Jeff Hughes. It ended in the first round. Accidental eye poke, no contest. Another comeback derailed. In 2023, he fought for the KSW heavyweight title against Phil DeFries again. He got finished, first round. Then in 2024, Duffee tried bare-knuckle boxing. Ben Rothwell destroyed him in 43 seconds.
BKFC is one of the most exciting fresh sports in the world right now. It's amazing. It's like being a part of a movement. The fans are rabid, the sport's exciting, and I mean, what a more exciting opponent than Ben Rothwell.
Duffee couldn't catch a break. Same pattern everywhere. Start strong, show flashes of greatness, then crash. And that is when everyone realized the truth. By 2025, Todd Duffee wasn't the future of the heavyweight division anymore. He was a name that people vaguely remembered, a footnote in the career of legends like Frank Mir. Not because he didn't have the tools, but because he never learned how to use them for long. He was a human highlight reel until he got hit. Every comeback was a teaser. Every fight felt like maybe this time. But the story always ended the same. The body broke, the timing was off, the opponents got smarter, and Todd never adjusted. This wasn't about bad luck. It wasn't about haters. It was about a guy who had the physical gifts of a world champion, but didn't have the consistency or the mindset to get there. He didn't evolve, he didn't adapt, he didn't listen. He just kept chasing knockouts and burning down every opportunity he touched.
Not necessary looking back. Like, I was just in a dark place. Like, I don't really hold any bitterness now. I think it's a great promotion. I wish I would have went out and had another fight or two for them, finished out my contract. But I think I was just in a really dark place, to be honest with you. Like, there's just no way around it. I was. Losing Kane as a training partner really factored into the decision too.
As of 2025, he is 39 years of age. Not that old for a heavyweight, but his record, only 14 sanctioned MMA fights, with 9 wins, 4 losses, 1 no contest. All 9 wins by knockout. All 4 losses by knockout. He either won by the sword or lost by it. Literally. No decisions, no submissions, no middle ground. He was all or nothing, and nothing won. You look at him now, 240 pounds of shredded muscle, clean jawline, movie-ready looks, and you think, how did this guy not become a superstar? He was built to be the scariest man on the planet. Instead, he became a walking what-if. Todd Duffee is what happens when talent doesn't meet timing, when potential meets pride, when the destroyer becomes the destruction. Now, no one denied his power. No one questioned his talent. But greatness isn't what you're born with. It's what you do with it. Todd lit the fuse, then stood too close to the explosion. Because sometimes, being a freak of nature, it isn't enough to outrun your own nature.